Everybody, welcome to Salt. And here we are, sitting at home, wearing our Titanic shirts.
Oh, well, I am.
Thanks for pointing it out. Miranda has a Titanic shirt. Would you like to tell them how you got your Titanic shirt?
Well, when we were all done filming, the people that worked there said, "Hey, here's some free shirts."
You know, it's your storytelling skills. That's what really wins the audience over.
It is. They're loving it, eating it up.
So, yes.
That's what happened.
It is what happened. See,
Usually he tells me, "You talk too long trying to tell this short little story." So I just tell it in a nutshell, and then all of a sudden I have no skill.
So anyway, yes.
It's true.
It's true.
It's all true.
It's true. If you have been watching, you've noticed, we've talked about it a couple times. We were in Branson doing some filming for the for the Incredible Journey to Illustrated Television show. We did the Titanic Museum. And they were really nice. They let us in before they opened. And so we were there every morning for 4 days.
Wait, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, 4 days.
4 days. So for 4 days in a row, we were there with the staff. Before the staff actually got there, just one of them was there, and then they showed up, and so it got to be.
Yeah, we were there from like 5:30 a.m.
to 9, and they were just really nice. So at the end, one of the managers, told me, he's like, "Hey, I just gave your crew, a bunch of that's the shirt they wear, the staff wear at the Titanic Museum."
Mm-hmm. It says Titanic Crew.
Crew, yeah. And so they got them all. I, sadly, did not. They did not have one in my size, so I didn't get one. But everyone else got one, and so we thought we would have Miranda wear hers, and then I would wear a black shirt. Nobody would notice until someone pointed it out that I don't have one. Thank you very much. Anyway, but we're back from that for a little bit, and we were going to stay home to the rest of the summer and, right into the school year, but Aspen had to hit the road again. So because she loves to travel, we're going to go and we're going to do some more filming with The Incredible Journey. Mm-hmm. And who knows where all it's going to be.
Did you know the Bible says not to lie?
And so there's Aspen's input. Truth is, she really doesn't want to go again. I don't understand why, but she would rather stay home, and I don't know. We'll see. It's not a done deal yet, but we may be on the road again. But anyway, that's, has nothing to do with what we're talking about today. Because today, we're covering a little more of Naaman, which we talked about once before, last week.
Yes, this is just part 2.
Yeah, part 2, because there was too much to cover. So Naaman in the Jordan River. And we brought it up in Sabbath school today and talked about it. It was related to the Pharaoh and the plagues in Egypt, and Miranda can explain that. But
basically how the Bible says that Pharaoh hardened his heart. It also said that God hardened his heart. Mm-hmm. And so this kind of addresses that a little bit.
Yeah. But before we get there, I thought it would be interesting to cover some facts about the Jordan River. Because, we talk about the story of Naaman and, being cleansed and all, and we're going to do that. But some fun facts about the Jordan River. First of all, there's a map. It kind of shows you it starts up in what's now present-day Syria, I believe, and then comes down and dumps into the Red Sea. And in Bible times, back up there where it starts, I think that was in the tribe of Dan, or at least up there towards that direction, which is what the term Jordan means. Jordan means down or down from Dan. It's interesting because the Jordan River is the lowest river on earth. From sea level, it's the lowest, running river from Earth, and dumps into the Dead Sea, which is the lowest sea elevation on Earth. So I thought that was interesting, which will play into Naaman's story because, He talks about the Jordan being so dirty and so, you know, and well, you know, the Dead Sea is dead because there's no outlet, and so the Jordan River feeds into that. So kind of goes into what kind of water it was. But its headwaters are up there, and it's mostly fed by snowmelt and some little creeks and smaller tributaries and stuff that kind of feed into it. Forms a spring pool there, and then, you know, falls into the basin and runs down, and that's the beginning of the Jordan River. So it's a big. The Jordan River is big for Christianity, obviously for several reasons, but also Islam and a couple other religions of the world. But for Christianity, the major things that happened there, I guess first, was the miracle of the Red Sea was done again when Joshua crossed over the Jordan into the Promised Land. So the Ark of the Covenant went forward, and God parted the waters of the Jordan River like he had parted the Red Sea and led the people through. And I apologize for coughing. I'm still fighting a cough. So that was, you know, one big reason it was, you know, sacred to the Israelites. And I think the next one was when Elijah was passing the mantle to Elisha. You know, they went out to meet the fiery chariot, but Elijah parted the waters of the Jordan so he and Elisha could walk across. And that would have been Elijah. And so Elijah goes up in the fiery chariot, and he drops his cloak back to Elisha. And then Elisha, just like Elijah did, because Elijah struck the Jordan with his cloak, Elisha struck the river with his cloak again and parted the Jordan and came back across. So Elijah parted first, Elisha parted it second, coming back and forth. And then, as you know, in today's story, Naaman was healed from leprosy by dipping in the Jordan River. And then I think finally there was, it would have been Jesus being baptized. So Jesus was baptized in the Jordan River as well. So many things happened in the Jordan River to make it special and significant. Interesting, I think all those things happen, and yet it's still, you know, not the cleanest river, and it's, you know, kind of stagnant, the lowest river in the, you know, world, and feeds into the Dead Sea. I just thought that was, you know, things God chooses to use. So maybe someday we'll do a salt about that, but not today. Today, we continue with Naaman.
Right. Okay. And since we made it work with Pharaoh and such, we're going to start with that angle, kind of. And so basically, and it made me think of the parable of the sower, of course, where the sower goes out and he scatters a seed on the ground, and basically some seeds land on by the wayside, some on stony ground, some on thorny ground, and some on the good soil. And the thing about all of these soil, I mean, God certainly put his words into Pharaoh's life. He had Moses and Aaron there, and he certainly heard and saw what God could do.
Yeah, so if you study the Sabbath school lesson, the lesson for today was the plagues. And there was, you know, we did today's lessons. There's just really a couple things I saw in the lesson. One was it was God's war against the Egyptian gods. And so we showed how, you know, the plagues, you know, were showing God's power of the Egyptian gods. But the other big thing was Pharaoh hardened his heart. God hardened Pharaoh's heart. Who hardened whose heart? And, you know, this kind of thing. And I'm sure other Sabbath schools argued that or talked about it anyway. Like, wow, here it says this and here it says this. And you got... But I thought Miranda, she mentioned it a few days ago. I thought that was interesting. She thought, well, that's like the parable of the sower. And, you know, there's the rocky heart. And the words going into the soil, it's the reaction of the soil to the word. And that's what was happening with Pharaoh.
Right. And so basically the soil already was what it was. Jesus mentioned 4 different types of soil. And it was what it was. And Pharaoh clearly had a hard heart, a stony heart. And,
yes.
and that's what it was. Now, people could have their lives changed by the words of God, but Pharaoh decided to harden his heart, though, or not to respond to
Not
that.
to. Now, the reason one of the reasons I'm talking about Pharaoh's heart being where it was in the Rocky is that to be a Pharaoh, you also had to be a priest, and then you believed you were a god yourself. And so, like the thorns and the rocky, however you want to say it, that was probably the condition of Pharaoh's heart, which is another reason God was not just showing, look, I'm more powerful than all the Egyptian gods. He had, it probably was an attempt to break the rocks and turn up the ground to Pharaoh's heart, because he had to get through, he had to show, look, your religion, theology, all that is nothing compared to me. I have to get past that. So a lot of people think, when God hardened Pharaoh, and I think what you're going to get, is like, it was his reaction to what God was actually trying to do for Pharaoh.
Yeah, and momentarily, a couple of times, he did say, "Oh, you know what? I and my people are sinners."
Right.
And God is the one true God, and yet it didn't last long.
No.
Next thing you know, he was back to being his own God,
Right.
basically, and so I decided to go ahead and use the story of Naaman to kind of finish that thought out and just give a broader explanation of how that works. So basically, we have Naaman, who of course went to Elisha to be healed, and Elisha sent his servant out and told him, go to the Jordan River, dip 7 times, and you will be clean. And of course that made him very angry and furious, because he didn't want to go to the Jordan River. And at that point in time, he was all ready to give up healing, just because he was too prideful to go on down to the Jordan River.
Yeah.
And so here is where he had a choice. This is where God's words had been put into him, telling him what he needed to do. And so now he either could choose to take that, go straight home, the 140 miles back to Damascus, or he could take the 20 miles to the Jordan River. And hopefully, at that point in time, he's thinking, well, hopefully I would be healed, right? And so this is one of those things where if he would have gone straight home, he would have missed the road to healing. He would not have taken that road, because he was living out his own words rather than living out the words of God. When he lived out the words of God, he got to the Jordan River, dipped 7 times, and he did. He then was able to, he was healed. And then, of course, just like the parable talks about the good soil, the producing good fruit and such, now he was able to go back. It started producing fruit right away. He goes back to Elisha and he says, you know what? Now I know your God is a true God, and I will never serve any other God. And after that, he was going to go home, and people would know that. They would know that the Israelite God had healed him, and that he wasn't worshiping any of their gods anymore. He was only going to worship the one true God.
Yeah. And part of the story that's interesting in that, and how people would have really known that, is, at the end, he has his people get, 2 bags of dirt from Israel, and he takes it back with him, because he was, in that day and time, one of the things that would have been thought of is that the world would have been split up into different things, like, here's Assyria, and then here's Israel. And they said the God of Israel is the one true God, and so he was taking part of Israel back with him, because that would have been holy ground. And so he would have had that dirt put out and displayed, and that's where he would have prayed and done, like people would have seen him praying on the dirt he brought back from Israel to the God of Israel, because they would have considered that holy ground and came from Israel. And so it was a huge testimony to everybody there. And he was the captain of the guard. He was the captain of the army. He was big time. So that would have made a big impact.
Yes, everybody seemed to be like he was pretty good friends with the king.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he and the king were tight. Yeah, they used to go ice fishing together in the, I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah, so we're going to end there, or we're going to go on with the stuff about pride and such?
Oh, well, are you, excuse us a moment. You're going to talk about the servants? I thought that was good.
Oh, the servants. Oh, okay, yeah, okay. So this is a little bit of a side trip,
But a good one.
But when I got to thinking about it, I thought, it was the servants, in a sense, who each did their small part, and that's not why Naaman was healed, but God used those servants to send His life in a direction. So first of all, of course, it was a servant girl who had actually been captured by soldiers of Assyria.
Yeah.
Assyria, right?
Yeah.
And she was kind enough to tell his wife that, he could be healed, your husband could be healed from leprosy if he goes to see the prophet in Israel. And so, of course, then he goes ahead and he goes there. But while he's there at Elisha's house, Elisha sends out the servant to give him the message from God. And then after that, when he didn't want to go to the Jordan River, it was his own servants who said, you know what? If he would ask you to do something, a really big thing, then you would be doing it. But no, he just asked you to do this little tiny thing. Now, why don't you just go ahead and do it? Because if it works, then that's just so great. Why go home and miss out on that opportunity? So this is because it must have taken them at least a week to get there at 140 miles. And so that's why they had gone that long distance. And so they encouraged him to go ahead and just dip in the river 7 times. I mean, how long would it take, right?
Yeah. And I thought that was really interesting. It was, the servants are really, you could say, the real heroes of the story. It was not for them, you know.
They just kind of guided him. They sent him started.
Yep.
And then told him what he needed to do and convinced him to do it.
Yes. One day I'm going to write a play, and it's going to be the story of Naaman from the servants' perspectives. I just think that would be a great play. But anyway, so I thought that was interesting. And God using the, what the people would have considered the small people or the, lowly people. And he was the one they used to be able to, work this miraculous healing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so, it was kind of the breakdown of the difference is Pharaoh could not let his pride go, and Naaman did. And they had 2 very different outcomes.
Yeah, and overall, he must have been a pretty decent guy or a pretty nice guy, even though in a sense, he would have been the servant girl's, his wife's servant girl's enemy in a sense, because it was probably some of his soldiers that took her captive.
Yeah.
And yet, he must have been a pretty nice guy for her to be able to say, hey, I'd like to see him healed.
Yeah. Yeah, instead of, the vengeance, well, now God's getting you back for what you did to me, True.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay. Is that it?
I think that'll be it. Yeah.
Okay. All right, so there you go. So next Sabbath, we'll be gone if everything works out.
Right, if everything works out, we'll be somewhere.
Yeah, Florida maybe, but we'll see. All right, so Salt on the road again. All right, hope you had a great Sabbath. Hope things are going well.